The office vibrated with the monotony of fluorescent light as I sat at my desk, surrounded by stacks of paperwork. Today was no different than countless others. A routine dipped in coffee stains and the drone of conversations wafting from cubicles. Yet, as I scanned the financial records of an upcoming merger, an unsettling feeling prickled at the nape of my neck. I leaned in closer, eyes narrowing at an odd transaction that disrupted the familiar flow of numbers. My pulse quickened. The name attached to an unauthorized withdrawal? Sarah Carter. A visceral shock rippled through me, a crimson wave. This couldn't be right. How could my loving wife, who championed my success, be implicated in corporate sabotage? My breath came shallow as I processed the implication. I scribbled notes, desperate to undo the horrible reality unraveling before me. The truth was trying to claw its way into my mind. If what I was reading was accurate, Sarah was at the center of a scandal that could destroy her life. A life we built together, founded on trust and partnership. The price of ambition is often paid in betrayal. I muttered beneath my breath, the phrase slicing through the fog of confusion that enveloped me. Could it be possible that I was witnessing the cruel machinations of a greater scheme? In that moment, the name that loomed largest in my thoughts was Tom Bennett. His ambition was legendary, often at the expense of others. Could he have plotted this twisted frame against my wife? I pushed my chair back, standing to pace restlessly. Memories of quiet evenings spent with Sarah flooded my mind. Her laughter after a long day, our shared dreams, and the unwavering support she provided. The sheer unfathomability of her involvement nagged at me. But someone had to be behind this betrayal. And if Tom was the puppet master, I would not let his strings bind us. The initial shock morphed into clarity. My love for Sarah demanded action, and I knew I had to fight for her innocence. I needed a plan, a meticulous strategy to navigate this treacherous corporate landscape and expose the undermining scheme set against her. My eyes scanned the evidence again, searching for any sign, any clue that would illuminate the truth. Each document was a potential lead, each keystroke a step closer to unraveling the twisted narrative that threatened to engulf the woman I loved. In the depths of my chest, anxiety churned, but I would not allow fear to paralyze me. Instead, I would channel that energy into uncovering the facts. I would delve deep, transcending the layers of deceit that shrouded this betrayal. Time was crucial, and I needed to remain composed. Every moment counted in this corporate chess game. As I began to develop my investigation plan, I steeled myself mentally. I needed to maintain a facade, to craft a narrative that would allow me to gather evidence without revealing my intentions. Tom wouldn't see me coming. I was determined to expose him while protecting my wife. With my instincts lit by the fires of resolve, I took a deep breath and prepared to plunge into the murky waters ahead. No matter how dark the path, I would emerge victorious, for the truth would always seek the light, especially when it was clutched so dearly by love. As the chilled air of the office enveloped me, I found myself spiraling back in time to moments that defined my life before this storm. I closed my eyes, the faint sound of keyboard clicks fading into the background as memories flooded in. Serene snapshots of my life with Sarah, moments spun from laughter and unwavering support. I remembered the day we met, a serendipitous encounter at a charity gala where I had been mindlessly schmoozing among corporate heavyweights, and she had been passionately advocating for our cause, her eyes ablaze with conviction. I had been captivated by her fierce passion, the way her laughter bubbled up effortlessly, breaking through the monotony of corporate chatter. She commanded a room, yet she was grounded in empathy for others. I wondered then if my quiet ambition would ever compare to her incandescent spirit. Yet together, we found a balance, a partnership grounded in mutual respect and love, where both our dreams thrived. We spent countless evenings discussing our hopes over shared dinners, dissecting cases as I prepared for court, or she recounted stories from her work at the Community Outreach Center. Dreams of building a life together filled our conversations, painted with the vivid hues of trust, faith, and shared ambition. But in retrospect, as flickers of doubt crept into my mind, I couldn't ignore subtle signs of jealousy lurking beneath Tom's interactions. I recalled a dinner party where Sarah effortlessly charmed everyone with her wit, and Tom, seemingly celebrating my success, had recoiled in a way I had failed to notice. It was a fleeting moment, a shadow crossing his face, a manifestation of ambition's darker side. Business flirtations between him and Sarah were commonplace. His compliments often carried an undertone I had always dismissed, until now. Were those meant to flatter or undermine? I shook my head, trying to dispel these intrusive thoughts, feeling more the solitude of my resolve. I had to remind myself that these were just shadows, not reflections of my marriage. As the days turned into weeks, I've noticed how much ambition had become a double-edged sword in our lives. While it propelled me into the roles I craved, it also drew lines in the sand, raising stakes I hadn't fully comprehended until this moment. The toxic blend of professional ambition and personal loyalty was beginning to coil around my heart, squeezing tightly. After those dinners, I'd watch Tom thrive and ascent as I wrestled with projects that became placeholders in time, while Sarah's warm encouragement kept me afloat. Little did I know then, the echo of ambition would rewrite the narrative we had forged together. And in the midst of this loving partnership, I felt the changes shift. Tom began appearing with a more powerful voice at our firm's meetings, confidently laying the groundwork beneath my feet. He pushed back against my ideas, subtle jabs wrapped in charm, all while maintaining a facade of camaraderie. My instincts had been whispering warnings, but infatuation with success dulled my perception. Now faced with evidence against Sarah, memories too vivid and painful flickered before me like a broken film reel. I remembered the night we celebrated my promotion while surrounding ourselves with people who believed in us, in our future. Now, I was about to let my fear and uncertainty destroy everything we had built. But as I gripped the edge of my desk, I recollected a moment that felt particularly crucial. It was during the last summer vacation when we took a trip to the coast. We walked hand in hand along the shoreline at sunset, the waves crashing softly, while we delicately articulated what our future would look like. With the fading sun casting a warm hue over her face, Sarah had dreamt aloud about our aspirations, never compromising on happiness or passion. I had promised her then that our vision would materialize, that we would prevail against the odds. Recalling that night ignited a flame within me. I realized the stakes were higher than I had imagined. I would now have to dig deep into the unscrupulous elements at play. But my commitment to Sarah demanded I risk everything. For if Tom had orchestrated this dance of deception, I would be the one to cut the strings. My plan began forming, slowly but surely, a web of investigation to unveil every thread of deceit and connection, making sure to insulate Sarah from the fallout to come. Each document I would unearth would be a step away from that sea of betrayal. Armed with my legal expertise, I would not only shield Sarah, but also unmask the malicious intent lurking within the walls of our firm. Yet, amidst all this, I felt darkness tugging at my heart. Tom's ambition could have fatal repercussions, leading me deeper into a world of chaos. I had to think strategically, weighing actions that could upend years of trust and devotion. Navigating this twisted game required more than just intellect. I had to remain composed, riding the waves of emotion that threatened to drown me. And as the sun set outside my office, I resolved to confront Tom, face to face. I gathered the thoughts, memories, and feelings swirling in my mind, channeling them into a razor-sharp blade that would cut through the fog of deceit. The path ahead would be fraught with peril, but I was ready for the fight, ready to protect what truly mattered most. My wife and the life we had forged through love. The days dragged on, each one steeped in a simmering tension that felt almost unbearable. Every time the phone chimed or the office door creaked open, my heart raced, a volatile mix of anticipation and dread coursing through me. A confrontation with Tom Bennett loomed ahead, an impending clash that would escalate the stakes of our game. Finally, the time came when I orchestrated a meeting, casually suggesting we grab a drink after work, a neutral territory where Tom would likely lower his guard, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing beneath my calm facade. As I stepped into the bar, the familiar scent of polished wood and the hum of conversation wrapped around me like a well-worn blanket. The warm glow of light spilled from the fixtures, softening the hard edges of this chaotic night. I caught sight of Tom in the corner, slouched comfortably with his whiskey, eschewing formality and radiating an air of casual superiority I had grown so accustomed to over the years. "Mind if I join you?" I asked, my voice steady but my heart pounding as I approached. "Of course." Didn't think you'd show, he greeted with a lazy smile, swirling the amber liquid in his glass, his confidence radiating like a shield. I slid into the chair, instinctively setting my posture to project assurance. I've got a lot on my mind, I said, studying his expression, searching for any hint of unease. Tom leaned back, crossing his arms. Don't we all? What's bothering you, partner? Work-related or something more personal? Sarah, I stated, the name lingering in the air like a silent thunderstorm. Watching the flicker of surprise dance across his face gave me a twisted sense of satisfaction. What about her? She's doing well, isn't she? He replied, feigning innocence, but I caught the slight tightening of his grip around the glass. I leaned in, lowering my voice to a near whisper, my conviction echoing through the low-lit space. I've come across some troubling information, financial discrepancies that trace back to you. His facade of confidence shattered for just a moment as a shadow flitted across his face, revealing the weight of his potential guilt. What do you mean? He asked, caution overtaking his bravado. Sarah's become a pawn in a game you're orchestrating, I accused, my voice steady even as my insides roiled. I won't let that happen. I need you to understand that I'm not the man you can outmaneuver, Tom. Betrayal, he echoed defensively, masking his fear with indignation. You think Sarah's misunderstood? I'm merely trying to give her the recognition she deserves. You're letting your insecurities cloud your judgment. Helping? Or are you plotting against her? I spat, unable to hold back my rising rage. You're hoping to frame her for your gain. An electric silence enveloped the space, the tension rippling like a taut string ready to snap. I could see the conflict brewing behind his eyes as he grappled with the truth of my words. Let's not get emotional, he said, his voice low and menacing. If you understood the game we're playing, you'd realize that sacrifices are necessary. Sacrifices? I shot back, my anger building with each breath. You're willing to sacrifice my wife's future for your ambition? This isn't a game, Tom. I will not allow you to destroy her. I leaned in closer, my voice barely above a whisper. You think I'll stand by and let this happen? You underestimate my determination. And more importantly, my love for Sarah. For a moment, uncertainty flickered across Tom's face, but he quickly masked it, slipping back into that arrogant veneer. You're naive if you think you can play nice and still get ahead. This isn't some fairy tale. Maybe it's time you learned that real lives are at stake here. I was shouting now, the bar patrons casting furtive glances in our direction. I felt my pulse quicken, adrenaline racing through my veins. I pushed myself up from the table, tossing a few bills down to cover my drink. I've said what I needed to say, I declared firmly, the weight of my resolve surging as I prepared to leave the battlefield. Mark my words. Tom called after me, his voice laced with a thinly veiled threat. You're stirring forces you can't comprehend. Step carefully, or you'll lose more than just a friend. Turning back to face him, I balled my fists, taming the tempest of rage swirling within me. You may think you know the game, Tom, but I'm just beginning to understand the rules. And this time I will win, I asserted, my voice steady, my mind clearer than it had been in days. Stepping out into the cool night air, I felt the weight of my words linger behind me. The city lights twinkled in the darkness, illuminating a path ahead, one I was determined to forge. A war had begun. One fought not just for Sarah's truth, but for our shared future. I was resolved to face the darkness Tom had unleashed and protect everything we had built together. As I stepped out into the cool evening air, a wave of determination washed over me. The confrontation with Tom had ignited a fire within, a need to protect Sarah at all costs. Driving home, my thoughts raced, each twist of the road mirroring the chaos brewing in my mind. I had to find the evidence that would expose Tom's treachery. This was no ordinary battle. It was a war for Sarah's future and the life we had built together. Once home, I turned on my laptop, the glow illuminating the mess of papers spread across my desk. I needed to dive into the financial documents I had gathered, feeling as if I were slipping into the role of a detective uncovering a dark conspiracy. Each spreadsheet and bank statement felt alive with potential secrets waiting to be unearthed. I was on a mission. My adrenaline surged as I prepared to chase down the truth. The first few hours slipped away into an endless cycle of scrolling and analyzing. Every number and transaction merged into a complex puzzle, filled with potential pathways leading to revelations. Suddenly, a strange anomaly caught my eye. A transfer from the company's account to an unfamiliar firm. The data aligned too closely with important project milestones that Sarah had been working on. A chill crept down my spine as I sensed the connections, each line of data intertwining with suspicion and deceit. Determined to make sense of this, I switched to a search engine, diving into layers of corporate filings and online reports. My heart raced as I discovered that the firm was a shell company, linked not only to fraudulent activities but also to a notorious figure in the underworld. This was beyond mere corporate rivalry. It was a calculated maneuver orchestrated by Tom to undermine Sarah's credibility and success. The clock ticked loudly in the background as I kept combing through files, piecing together each clue with frantic urgency. A thread snaked through the web of deception, connecting Tom's ambitions to real dangers that could jeopardize Sarah's entire career. My fingers danced over the keyboard as I compiled evidence into organized folders, drafting a timeline that narrated Tom's machinations with alarming clarity. As dawn broke, sunlight filtered through the window, revealing the exhaustion etched into my face. In the bleary aftermath of the night spent chasing shadows, I quickly composed an email to Sarah, my heart thundering as I wrote. I knew the gravity of what I had to share, and I needed her to understand the looming threat. Sarah, I typed urgently, we need to meet as soon as possible. I've uncovered something regarding your projects that could put you in serious jeopardy. Please meet me at our usual cafe tomorrow morning. Hitting send felt like a weight lifting momentarily, but anxiety filled the void as I anticipated her reaction. I steeled myself for what lay ahead. I knew my findings would only complicate her world, and the last thing I wanted was to further burden her. The next day arrived heavy with anticipation. I arrived early at the cafe, my usual comfort drenched in a palpable tension. Memories of laughter and shared dreams haunted the walls, now overshadowed by the gravity of what I was about to lay before her. My heart raced as I waited, each clink of the barista's utensils further stoking the fire of uncertainty within me. When Sarah entered, it was as if the sun broke through the clouds. Her radiant smile briefly dispelled the dread swirling inside, but I could see a flicker of concern as she approached. Hey, you're looking serious this morning, she teased lightly, but I could sense her grounding herself for something weighty. Hey, I said, trying to return her warmth while battling the anxiety clawing at my insides. We need to talk. I gestured for her to sit, her smile fading as she sensed my seriousness. We exchanged awkward pleasantries before I dove straight in, explaining the financial discrepancies, the shell company, and the sinister ties I had exposed. As I spoke, I watched her expression shift from confusion to concern, and finally to fear as the weight of the situation sank in. Tom? He's doing this, she whispered, grappling with disbelief while my heart sank further into my chest. It's a calculated move. He's been using you as a pawn in his quest for power. I can't let him ruin everything you've worked for, I replied, my voice steady despite the intensity of the moment. She took a deep breath, trying to process the enormity of what I had laid bare. I need to confront him, she said firmly, her eyes sparking with a fierce determination. No, Sarah, I interjected, urgency flowing from my words. You can't confront him yet. Not without solid evidence. We need to strategize. If we act now, he might retaliate. Her expression hardened slightly. But I can't just sit and wait while he undermines me. I know it's frustrating, I said gently, taking her hand in mine. But we need to be smart about this. I'm fighting this with you, and together we can uncover the truth, even if it feels impossible right now. Our discussion turned into a strategy session, brainstorming how to gather more evidence and allies within the firm. Every suggestion brought us closer to a plan, yet I could still feel the heavy weight of conflict looming above us, a storm gathering strength that wouldn't easily dissipate. Leaving the cafe together, a shared sense of purpose wrapped around us, but I couldn't shake the eerie sensation that Tom's eyes were already upon us, watching, waiting for the right moment to strike back. As I walked beside her, I knew we were on the precipice of a battle that would ultimately shape our lives. This wouldn't just be a confrontation at the office. It was a fight to reclaim everything we held dear. And I was willing to risk it all to protect the bond we fought so hard to build against the tide of ambition and deception. The following week dragged on, anxiety wrapping itself around me like a vice. Each day at the office felt like a battlefield, where the shadows of deception lurked around every corner. And no matter how hard I tried to focus, Tom's presence was a constant reminder of the war brewing beneath the surface. I could see it in the way he carried himself. His confidence had morphed into a dangerous arrogance as he navigated effortlessly through the office crowd, casting glances that sent chills down my spine. Every morning, I would sit at my desk, eyes scanning through documents while frequently checking my phone for any messages from Sarah. She was investigating countless leads, searching for allies or any ray of hope that could help us expose Tom's treachery. But she soon, too, had begun to feel the mounting pressure. I could see the toll it was taking on her. The late nights, the worry etched across her beautiful face, and the strain of managing a deceptive workplace. One afternoon, I noticed Sarah slip into the break room, her expression tense as she pulled out her phone. My instincts flared and I followed her, walking cautiously behind her. I caught fragments of her conversation as she attempted to coax information from a colleague, someone we had both believed could be trusted. "Come on, Kelly, you know something," Sarah pressed, lowering her voice while leaning too close to the table. "I can't shake the feeling that Tom has been manipulating the project outcomes. I need your help." Fingers balling into fists, I resisted the urge to interrupt, fearing that the walls had ears. I could see the hesitation in Kelly's expression. The fear of the powerful man looming over us made her hesitate. "Sarah, it's complicated. I don't want to be caught in the crossfire," Kelly stammered, glancing around as if the very walls were listening. "Please," Sarah insisted, desperation flooding her voice. "If he's using you, it's going to hurt you too. We need to act together." I could feel my heart sinking as they ended their conversation with a veiled promise to talk later. The sense of urgency was palpable. It was time for me to intervene, to rally our supporters and uncover the full extent of Tom's game. But I also sensed that we needed to strike first, to draw him out of the shadows. That night, while reviewing the files Sarah had emailed me, I stumbled upon the lead I had been searching for. It all lay in the financial reports I had combed through against the shell company. A certain name kept reappearing, and I began to wonder if it linked Tom to someone more powerful than I initially believed. The weight of the realization lingered like perfume in the air. A potential ally who might not only expose Tom, but also be willing to take him down. With resolve, I reached out to an old contact, someone who preferred to remain in the background of corporate politics, but had contacts scattered throughout both legitimate and illegitimate sectors. I crafted a detailed email outlining my findings, anchoring the vulnerable connection between Tom and this entity. I needed to tread carefully, though. This bridge had to be built on trust, and it had to withstand the scrutiny of someone like Tom. The next morning, I met Sarah at the usual cafe again. Despite the pressure enveloping us, there was an undercurrent of hope that surged in our hearts as we began discussing my new lead. "You're sure they'll turn on Tom?" she asked, eyes bright with possibility but cautious. "We need to track this down and see if we can draw them out before he can react. If we can get them to expose him first, it can help us build the leverage we need." I replied, "We cannot wait any longer." "Okay, let's do this," she said, determination etched on her brow. "But we need to be discreet. Any wrong move, and we could tip Tom off." With our plan in motion, we spun into a whirlwind of action. We researched the connections meticulously, analyzing every piece of intel that could draw attention to the shadowy firm Tom was entangled with. If we could consistently build our case, we could reach out to the right people and gather enough support before he had a chance to respond. The intensity of our investigation sparked something in both of us. A shared fervor fueled by unyielding love, and the urgent need to protect everything we had built together. Amidst the growing stakes, we forged a deeper bond through our struggles, sharing late nights and whispered secrets as we plotted our course. Each day brought new challenges, but we grew more adept at navigating the murky waters of our situation. I could watch Sarah thrive, her sharp intellect and resolve shining brighter amidst the uncertainty. We honed in on our next crucial move, carefully outlining what we needed to accomplish over the next days. Follow the financial trails, access the online data, and recruit allies from within the firm itself. As time went on, we could sense that we were nearing a tipping point. Tom appeared increasingly unhinged as his paranoia grew over our clandestine investigations. It was as if a storm had settled in him. I could recognize the telltale signs as he began lashing out verbally at colleagues and attempting to isolate them from Sarah. Then came the moment of reckoning when we finally cornered Tom in the break room one afternoon. He paced the small space, his confidence slipping as he realized both Sarah and I knew too much. The tension hung palpable in the air as we exchanged glances, our silent communication grounding us amidst the brewing chaos. "What do you want?" he sneered, forcibly keeping a smile plastered on his face. "You know poking around where you don't belong could have serious repercussions, right?" I stepped forward, my heart pounding, adrenaline surging with a fierce determination. "It's over, Tom. We've seen everything. You're playing a dangerous game, and we have the evidence to bring you down." His amusement faded, and I witnessed the coldness in his eyes transform into a cold fury. "You believe you can intimidate me? You have no idea who you're dealing with. It's your game that ends here," I countered, refusing to back down. "You are outnumbered and soon you'll be exposed for the coward you truly are." With that, we turned our backs, knowing that we had seen the fear flicker across his face, if only for a moment. I could feel Sarah's warmth beside me as we strode back into the sea of co-workers, confident in our pursuit. Despite the dark clouds still looming above, we took solace in one another, united against the looming threat. Days melted into nights as our plan unfolded, tension coiling tightly around every step we took. I felt the weight of uncertainty. Tom wouldn't go down without a fight. The moment of truth was edging ever closer. And as the deadline for our showdown approached, I knew we had to be ready for the repercussions that were bound to follow. The upcoming week promised to be the most dangerous yet, and we were right on the cusp of igniting the storm that would either see us rise or fall in flames. But as long as I had Sarah by my side, I felt invincible, casting aside the doubt that surrounded us. Together we would confront the darkness, and I would do everything in my power to protect her from Tom's sinister grasp. No matter what came next, we would face it together. The air was thick with anticipation as the date of the board meeting approached, each hour stretching endlessly, fraught with tension. Sarah and I had pored over every piece of evidence we could muster, crafting our arguments and anticipating Tom's every move. We both knew the stakes were higher than they had ever been. As morning dawned on the day of reckoning, the office buzzed with an electric energy, a palpable mix of anxiety and excitement swirling in the atmosphere. I spotted Tom pacing by the window, the picture of a man trying to maintain a facade of composure. I could sense his agitation, and it fueled my resolve. He was beginning to feel the heat, and we were ready to turn up the flame. "Are you ready for this?" I asked Sarah as we stood in my office, the dim light casting shadows on our carefully organized files. Our evidence was ready, an assemblage of documents, emails, and testimonies all carefully aligned to expose Tom's deception. "I am," she replied, her voice steady and fierce. "It's time to bring the truth to light. We can't let him continue to manipulate everyone." I watched her with admiration. Her quiet strength pushed me to be braver. The plan was simple yet dangerous, and every detail needed to align perfectly. We'd identified board members who had previously expressed concern with Tom's methods, people who could rally behind us once they saw the evidence. Together, we would confront him directly and leave no room for his intimidation tactics. We split up to gather those allies. Sarah approached a couple of members who were known for their integrity, while I made my way toward Jonathan, the head of compliance. I caught him in the quiet corner of the office, preparing for the meeting. "Jonathan," I said, lowering my voice, "we need to talk. You're aware of the growing whispers about Tom, right?" He glanced around before nodding, a frown creasing his forehead. "Yes, but I need more than just rumors. What do you have?" I leaned in closer, revealing the documents I had meticulously prepared. These prove Tom is pulling the strings behind the scenes and manipulating financial outcomes for his gain. This isn't just bad management, it's corruption. We need to act swiftly before he strikes back. He studied the papers, his expression shifting from skepticism to concern. If what you're saying is true, this could be huge. But can we trust the other board members to stand with us? They have to. When the truth is laid out, they won't have a choice. If we all band together, we can take him down, I said, pushing down the creeping doubt in my chest. Meanwhile, I could see Sarah moving from one conversation to another, growing momentum in her wake. She navigated the office with a determination I admired, rallying support and revealing the cracks in Tom's leadership to those who would listen. As time wore on, the energy in the office shifted. Where there had once been silence and fear, whispers of dissent began to swell. I caught snippets of conversations as staff members began to voice their concerns about Tom. A united front slowly forming around us. Finally, the moment of truth arrived. The board meeting loomed ahead, and an air of expectancy filled the conference room. Each board member took their seat, but there was a tension none of us could shake. The stakes had never felt this real. Tom stood at the head of the table, attempting to exude authority, but I noticed the strain etched into his features, a man attempting to mask fear with bravado. He started his presentation, spouting numbers and projections, but I could see through it. I could sense that he knew we were poised to strike. As he droned on, Sarah and I exchanged glances, a silent agreement passing between us. It was time. I took a deep breath and raised my hand. "Excuse me, Tom," I interrupted, my voice cutting through his monologue. "I believe there's a matter we need to address." He turned to me, surprise and irritation flaring in his eyes. "And what's that?" "There are serious allegations against you," I began, feeling the weight of every eye in the room turn toward us. "We've gathered evidence that suggests you've been manipulating financial records and misusing your position." Gasps echoed among the board members, and the atmosphere shifted. Tom's composure crumbled, a look of panic flashing across his face as I laid out the incriminating evidence before them. Emails and financial discrepancies that painted a damning picture. "How dare you?" Tom shouted, his bravado slipping. "You think you can bring me down with this nonsense? You have no idea what you're up against." I stepped forward, not backing down. "It's not just nonsense, Tom. This is about integrity, about the future of this company. You've put us all at risk for your gain." The room fell silent. Board members exchanged uneasy glances, some visibly grappling with the information I had just presented. It was happening. The doubt had seeped into their minds, and the tide was turning. "We need to investigate this immediately," Jonathan spoke up, his voice firm. "If there's even a shred of truth to what's been presented, this cannot go unaddressed." That was the moment when I felt the wind shift. Tom's face paled, and I could sense his temperature rising as he realized that the ground beneath him was slipping away. He was losing control. "No, you're all making a grave mistake," he yelled, panic cutting through his tone. "You'll regret this. I've kept this company afloat, and you're about to destroy everything." But it was too late. The board was already moving, insisting on an emergency investigation. Tom's desperate pleas fell on deaf ears, and I could feel the exhilaration and fear racing through my veins. The victory was sweeter than I had imagined. As the meeting drew to a close, I allowed myself a moment to breathe. Relief washed over me, but I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that this wouldn't be the last we'd hear from Tom. He was a cornered animal now, and I knew he would retaliate. As we left the boardroom, Sarah pulled me aside. "We did it," she said, her voice laden with disbelief and triumph. "For now," I replied, caution lacing my tone. "Tom will come after us. He won't let this go without a fight." We both knew that while we had ignited the flames of change, Tom would not go down quietly. He would regroup, and I could already sense the darkness coiling once again, ready to strike back. But Sarah's presence by my side felt like a shield. Whatever came next, we would confront it shoulder to shoulder, emboldened by the truth we uncovered. The path ahead might be perilous, but we'd armed ourselves with knowledge and backed by an ever-growing coalition. As we prepared for the battle ahead, I felt fortified by hope. Together, we would face whatever darkness Tom had left to unleash, ready to reclaim the future he had attempted to shatter. This was not over, not by a long shot. Days drifted by since the board meeting, yet uneasiness lingered, filling the air with a tense anticipation. Tom's desperate attempts to salvage his reputation were well underway, and I feared he would retaliate without hesitation. One morning, as I entered the office, Sarah was waiting near the entrance, her expression grave. "Did you see the email?" she asked, urgency evident in her tone. "What email?" I replied, my heart racing. "There's a message circulating from Tom. He's accusing us of undermining him and saying he'll take action against us." My stomach clenched. What kind of action? Nothing specific, but it sounds threatening. People are starting to turn against us again. Fear gripped me. We need to counter this narrative immediately. If the board buys into his lies, we're finished. "We should take our findings directly to the board again," Sarah suggested. "We can't let him twist the truth." Within hours, we formulated a plan to schedule another meeting with the board. We needed to put everything on the table, undermine Tom's attempts to manipulate the truth, and restore the faith of our supporters among the board members. That night, I couldn't sleep, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if our efforts were futile? As the time grew closer for our meeting, doubts crept in, yet I pushed them aside. We were fighting for more than just our careers. We were challenging corruption. The following morning, we stepped into the boardroom, determination coursing through us. I glanced at Tom, who was already seated and seething. The atmosphere was electric, tension crackling as board members settled in, their eyes flickering between us and Tom. "Thank you for convening again on short notice," I began, projecting confidence that I didn't entirely feel. "We must address the recent accusations coming from Tom." Laying out our evidence once more, the financial documents and emails, Sarah and I fought to re-establish our credibility. We could see the glint of doubt slowly forming in the eyes of the board members. Then Tom erupted, throwing his hands in the air. "You honestly believe this rubbish? You think the board will trust two people who are desperate to cling to power?" "Desperate," I shot back, passion fueling my words. "We are here for the integrity of this company. You've betrayed not only us but everyone who trusted you." Tom's face reddened, his fury palpable. "You'll rue the day you crossed me. I built this company from the ground up." As anger surged through me, I seized the moment. "And with that power, you've exploited trust. We deserve transparency and truth, not your manipulations." The board began murmuring, a growing uncertainty about Tom's leadership creeping into the conversation. Someone spoke up, questioning him. "Tom, what evidence do you have to refute these claims? Or are you merely relying on intimidation?" Beneath the surface of Tom's confidence, I sensed a crack. His bravado faltered as he glanced around the table, grappling with doubt. "You've all been misled," he stammered, but his words lacked the fervor they had before. With renewed energy, I pressed on. "This isn't about personal vendettas. This is about the future of our company. Are we going to allow someone who lies to stay at the helm?" It was the turning point. The room fell silent, the weight of the truth pushing down on everyone present. The board was visibly shifting. I could feel the resistance slowly melting away. Tom's desperation intensifying was palpable. He shouted, "You're all fools if you side with them. This company will collapse without my guidance." But the members were now fully engaged, exchanging glances that spoke volumes. Before he could regain momentum, Jonathan stood, stating flatly, "We need leadership rooted in honesty, not fear. It's time for us to confront the truth." As the meeting evolved, I could sense the shift completely. I exchanged an encouraging glance with Sarah, a silent acknowledgement that we were overcoming the odds. Finally, Tom's desperate pleas faded, and as the board members began discussing their options, hope surged within me. Perhaps this was the moment we had waited for. The victory that could restore our company's integrity. But as Tom's power crumbled, I sensed a deeper, more ominous shift was still at play. A storm was brewing, and I knew he wouldn't go down easily. Whatever was to come next, I had Sarah by my side. Together, we were ready to reclaim not just our place, but also the future Tom had tried to derail. This battle was far from over, but we had ignited an unstoppable force, a light that could shine through the impending darkness.